Popular San Francisco food hall closing as dealing and public defecation scare off guests. This is a new report. One man befouled the sidewalk outside the food hall in a disgusting way, according to the Chronicle. Is there any other way other than disgusting when you do a deuce on the sidewalk while people are eating just a few feet from you? I don't think so. We need to get into this. Here we go. One of the reasons that this is called news for reasonable people is that we read stories that aren't really reasonable, right? This is one of them. This is truly one of them. Public defecation scares off guests. Yeah. I don't know of anywhere that's associated with food that would say, you know what? People pooping on the sidewalk or on the street or, just right in front of the restaurant. It's okay. It's all right. I mean, we'll just get out the hose like that old dude down in San Francisco did and, hose things down a little bit and get an assault charge and have to do 35 hours of community service. True story, right? Popular San Francisco food hall La Cocina is closing after some restaurateurs are claiming that the sidewalks outside the hall are too full of drug dealing, public defecation, and crime to allow for a pleasant experience for guests, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Where is this? Let's just take a quick peek here. Let's look at the mappy map. All right, it's right here. There's the Tenderloin. That is all you need to know, right? It's all you need to know. It's in the heart of just, things are going on, but not necessarily the right way. So yeah, that's basically kind of what you need to know, right? The food hall located in the Tenderloin District of San Francisco was supported by a nonprofit that provided assistance primarily to women from communities of color and immigrant communities. One chef, Wafa Bahula, an Algerian immigrant, said that the best solution was to close down shop, the Chronicle reported. He said that the sidewalks outside were too dangerous and unpleasant to lure people to dinner as night fell. It's just too many incidents of human defecation. We talk about dodge the human fecal matter on the sidewalk here a lot. And when you are looking to have a nice dining experience, human feces does not, it's not in that equation. It's just not. It's nowhere near where you want that to be. It's the opposite, right? It's the right food in, not out. The whole thing is it's disgusting. And we talk about street conditions. Yeah, this is in large part what we're talking about. This isn't the Tenderloin. This is the heart of the beast, right? So you kind of expect this, but here's the bottom line. At the end of the day, this food hall is going to close down, meaning a bunch of little restaurants are no longer going to be operating that way. And you know what they're going to? They're going to like a delivery operation out of here, right? Instead of in-person dining, well, you're just going to be able to cook all this up and we're going to ship it out or have people come pick it up, whatever. But they can't stay and eat their food because it's such an unpleasant experience that the economics don't work. The Algerian immigrant also related that her husband recently witnessed a shooting outside La Cocina. Drug use, drug dealing, public defecation, and urination and trash are common sights on the sidewalks outside La Cocina before it opens and after it shuts. During operating hours, the block is mostly clear, but only because La Cocina was spending $275,000 a year on security it couldn't afford. $275,000. I mean, total insanity, right? I mean, you shouldn't have to do that. You should have streets that with the occasional drive by from officer friendly, you're all good. That's the way it should be, right? I mean, you want to have that public police presence felt, but you shouldn't need to have private security to the tune of over $250,000 a year just to stay in business. That's a hard no-go. But in San Francisco, that's what folks are doing. A lot of the shops in downtown are the same. A lot of the hotels and condominiums in downtown are the same. They've got armies of private security. Amazon in South Lake Union in Seattle, the reason their streets are so clean is that they spend an incredible amount of money on private security. keeping their buildings safe, keeping their employees safe, keeping people who come in to Amazon doing all kinds of different things, keeping them safe, keeping the environment clean, graffiti-free, homeless-free, drug-free, right? And that's what you've got in Seattle. But you've got to have the numbers where you can spend $275,000 a year on security. I mean, that's just nuts, but that's the reality. And so you get to this breaking point where, well, we can't bring enough people in, got to shut her down. San Francisco Chronicle asked how other businesses could survive even if La Cocina, which was widely celebrated, including on Forbes and NBC Nightly News, if they couldn't do it. So if a big celebrity, food court type deal can't make a go of it, how are your little one-offs going to make a go of it? Quite simply, they're not. And that's why we're seeing example of business after business after business shutting down because you can't make a go of it there. 2 security guards at La Cocina, Damien Morfitt and Ron Habsbert, blamed the food hall's failure on City Hall and the police department. Well, we all know City Hall and the police department are, they're wildly intertwined. If cops had their way, they'd go through and just clean all this up. They would. It drives them crazy to be dealing with this stuff. But if you've got a mandate from City Hall, it's the Tenderloin. We're just going to kind of let things go. We're just going to, we're going to reimagine and rethink what, drugs and possession and defecation on the sidewalk and urination and theft and crime and shootings and murder. We're going to reimagine that and we're going to just kind of let it go and we'll just see how this goes. We'll just see what happens here. Well, this is what happens, right? This is what happens. They said when they were growing up, drug dealers and people using drugs felt uncomfortable in public. But now they're given free reign over public sidewalks while families, kids, and people just trying to get lunch are made to feel uncomfortable. Nobody wants to deal with that. San Francisco it's got the double whammy of bad street conditions. And then you've got the whole work from home. And for their shopping centers, shopping used to be a huge deal in San Francisco. You had Union Square and some amazing shopping, but now, vast majority of the stores are closed down. I just did a video. I reviewed a video that another YouTuber made of Embarcadero Plaza, where almost every single storefront was either vacant or closed or coming soon, we're coming soon. Really? To here? Why? Nobody here. There's nobody walking around. You can check that video out. But an entire kind of outdoor mall plaza-ish thing in San Francisco, really well known. Embarcadero Plaza, just nobody there. No people, no foot traffic. And that's in the financial district. And that's a clean, nice area of San Francisco. You throw, lack of foot traffic because there aren't enough, employees in the downtown core anymore, on top of the way people change their shopping habits during the pandemic. That's another big whammy that people don't talk about much anymore. People got used to shopping online. Why would I go into a store if I can order the same thing, get it here, in a day or so or whatever, and not have to deal with all the nonsense we're talking about here? Why wouldn't they do that? Well, they do. And that's what they are doing. So, you got lack of foot traffic. Yes. Just fewer people in downtown core because everybody's working from home, but then they also don't want to go there because of dealing with this kind of stuff. And then, shopping habits changed. So there's a bunch of different factors all going on, and they are just destroying these parts of town that have been kind of left to fend for themselves to the tune of $275 a year. If the police were consistent with their patrols and efforts, people would come out here at night, Morfitt told the San Francisco Chronicle. The cops drive by and look, and they don't do anything, Habsbert said. Well, they've got a patrol, and there's only so many of them. And oftentimes, specifically down in Portland, they are going from one priority call to another. So checking up on what the drug dealers are doing, there's just not a lot of interest. You got to deal with what you can get to. And if you got 45 calls on hold as you come onto a shift, you're going to go work those priority calls. And so checking up on the bad guys dealing drugs, well, resources don't really have them. So we're just going to move on to whatever domestic violence dispute, or maybe a shooting, or some kind of car theft, or who knows what is the priority call. But it's not getting on top of these situations. That is not happening. There does not appear to be the interest to want to make that go away, just based on bandwidth of number of cops you've got, what you can get to. And I mean, you can kind of understand that. It doesn't make any sense to somebody my age. I'm 54, thinking about these things, because you should just have cops Johnny on the spot to handle whatever it is that there is. But the reality in a city like Seattle, Portland, San Fran, that's just not the case. You defunded the police. Nobody wants to be a cop. Tough gig. And these are expensive cities. The paper noted on Tuesday, they said no one seemed to care when a man dropped his pants and befouled the sidewalk. Befouled. That is an epic word. I need to start using that word. Did you just befoul the sidewalk? Oh, you did? Oh, you need to pick that up. Did your dog just befoul my lawn? Pick that up. That's gross. Befouled the sidewalk outside La Cocina in a disgusting way. Is there any other way other than disgusting if you do that on a public sidewalk? No. And then sauntered off. Could you imagine? Just drop a deuce, move on. It's okay. Toilet paper, optional. Washing your hands, optional. Toilet, optional. I mean, running water to said toilet, optional. All those things. You just don't need them anymore. You just, take a number 2 wherever you want to, and it's all good, right? Despite their efforts to clean the area, it still smelled bad Wednesday, scaring off customers from the marketplace parklet, they said. All right, that makes sense. It's kind of like when your kid dirties a diaper and that room smells so bad for hours, and you're like, how did something so small as this little child make such a big mess? Oh, right? This is not the city we grew up in, Morfitt said. The Chronicle also recently reported that San Francisco has become a sanctuary city for open-air drug dealing. Uh-oh. Are we getting onto something here? Allowing some drug dealers to make upwards of $350,000 every year. All right. So the San Francisco Chronicle, they did a big expose, and I'm gonna cover that. But because it's about drugs, my options are limited, and it's going to go on the private channel, reasonabletv.com. That's a subscription service, $10 a month, get a bunch of content. I'm going to do a series on that, because literally there's communities in Honduras where they're like, San Francisco is the best, 49ers, Golden State Warriors, greatest teams ever, because these folks from Honduras are coming to San Francisco and slinging the dope and making big money doing it. Honduras specifically. There's like one guy, he's the OG of drug dealers from Honduras. He just does coffee now, but back in the day, he showed a whole bunch of other folks from Honduras how to make a go of it in San Fran. And it's my understanding that they're running it like a business. They're in San Fran, they're in Portland, they're in Seattle. You've just got a bunch of stuff going on, right? And that's the drill. Why wouldn't that, why wouldn't that happen? San Francisco Board of Supervisors member Matt Dorsey is asking City Hall to investigate the justice system in the city after a report that some drug dealers make upwards of $350 per year, but still are eligible for legal counsel from the public defender's office. Does that seem a little bit out of line to you? Yes, it does. So $350 a year as a drug dealer, send that money back home. The average salary daily in Honduras is around $8. So you take hundreds of thousands of dollars, send them home. Yeah, you can have whatever on your gate, and you're going to, proclaim San Francisco, greatest city ever, because that's where you made your money, right? Is it that much different than the Kennedys and their bootlegging, or any of the drug dealers, in the 80s coming from wherever to Miami? Is it that much? No. But the fact that we are basically supporting them, that's the nuts part, right? That's the nuts part, because San Francisco is a sanctuary city. And so even if you get busted as a drug dealer in San Francisco, because you are, you're under the sanctuary, you're an illegal immigrant, they're not going to throw you out. They're just going to let you, rinse and repeat, catch and release, right? Do street level drug dealers who can make as much as $350 a year or even more if they help run a local operation receive taxpayer funded legal services to defend their criminal cases in San Francisco? That's a question Dorsey asked Tuesday on Twitter. That's a good question. The San Francisco's mayor office told Fox News Digital that while the closing of the food hall was unfortunate, the city is taking crime seriously. The city is so far behind the 8 ball, they can't catch up. And they're not able to catch up at this point in time. It's overrun. They've been overrun. They're bringing in the feds to do a little look-see. By that, we mean we've got the National Guard, but only on a, consultational standpoint. You got state police coming in, but I mean, you need an all-out war to get this going the right direction. And we've already had the war on drugs, and everybody complained, well, that was a failure. It just didn't work. Yeah, but completely giving up and going this direction, this isn't working either. We wanted the food hall model to be successful, but it hasn't turned out that way. Foot traffic from nearby workers in UC Law San Francisco wasn't enough. Who was it? I think it was Chesa Boudin just got a job at UC Law San Francisco. Doesn't that make absolute sense? He's going to redo the law department there. Okay. Good luck with that, guys. Good luck after he's been thrown out of office. We've increased drug dealing arrests in coordination with state and federal law enforcement and is bringing back more resources to address these issues. We are continuing to work to take these challenges seriously. Well, you need to be, because you are bleeding out tax dollars in the form of revenue, because nobody wants to be in the area and businesses are shutting down left and right. And you're going to be left with this massive void that is, the business economy in San Francisco. The mayor's office also pointed to increased revenue through catering. It's not meant to be catering. It's meant to be a food hall where people go in and enjoy it. But if you can't get past the human poop on the sidewalk, bad boy's got to close down, right? On the positive side, the revenue through catering has been much more successful, which is why this business operation is moving in that direction. By transitioning into a kitchen, they'll be able to serve more businesses and entrepreneurs. Around 20 will be able to use the space instead of the 7. And the current 7 are being assisted in opening new storefronts, food trucks. The mayor put funding in the current budget to keep the space open as a cafe and public space during this transition. The mayor's office listed a number of victories in fentanyl seizures off the street and wrote that the situation is complex and bigger than San Francisco. It's going to require local, state, and federal law enforcement all working together and continued coordination. The San Francisco Police Department did not respond to a request for comment. Yeah, it's because they're too busy out there being overrun by drug dealers and people pooping on the sidewalk. Yeah, and crime, just crime in general. Cops don't have the bandwidth to get to this stuff. And so that's why it's just basically going unchecked. And the whole pooping, I mean, that is such a drug thing, right? Can't make it to the restroom. Gotta go. You know what I mean? And just lack of respect for anything that a normal human being would have as far as decency. Imagine at some point in time in your life, you think during the middle of the day, it's okay to go number 2 on a public street. Just let her rip. Does that make any sense to you? No, because it's just simply not reasonable. It's so far out of line. I mean, some of those super basic things I was talking about, the little kid making a big stinky with the diaper, some of those basic things, especially with boys. You can't really pee there, son. You can't just go willy nilly wherever you want to. That's not a thing. I mean, you got to drill that into their head, right? And then, 20 or 30 years later, all of a sudden they're like, no, I can do this. I'm an adult and I can do this and I will do this because I have such little respect for my fellow human beings and society and anybody in this location in general, that this is just what I'm doing. And somebody else is going to have to they're going to have to clean it up. And it smelled bad for a long time. Yeah, it's because it probably just reactivated all those other layer of smells you've got going on when you come by and, add a little water to that organic matter, right? Just, it does not smell good. And that's what people talk about invariably when you're talking about San Francisco. There are streets in downtown Seattle, streets in Portland, you want to talk about Skid Row in LA? How does that smell? Not great. Kensington Avenue, another great example. In the morning, city comes along and literally just scours the streets with, high-powered pressure washers and get it all cleaned up for the big day of using, drugs and trank dope and, all this kind of stuff going on. And then by nighttime, they got to do it again. Rinse, repeat, keep on it going. That's a city that is wildly out of control. To the point where you've got, a cool food thing going on in an area that's been economically challenged. And that area has been economically challenged because years and years and years of policies just basically saying, hey, you can go into this area, the Tenderloin, and do whatever you want, buy whatever you want, buy whomever you want. It's all good. It's okay. And now it's, impacting the city in general. Because businesses are leaving, malls are closing down, buildings are going back to their lenders. And it's not just because of people pooping on the sidewalks. You've got a bunch of other stuff that I mentioned earlier going on. The work from home, the way we, change shopping, all of this works against an ecosystem that is designed to bring people in and spend their money. People don't want to spend their money, and they're not spending their money here. And going to catering, okay, yeah. But, if you've got a business that is based upon people coming in and enjoying your food, maybe it's just, this is your dream. You didn't sign up to be a caterer. You signed up to be a food truck owner, a restaurant owner, a whatever, a pop-up owner of a restaurant, however you want to look at it. You didn't sign up to be a caterer, but if that's the direction you go in, all right, okay. But you want the option to have people come in. This is no longer an option in San Francisco. And, I think the title says it all. Public defecation scares off guests. Yes, that does. I don't care where you are. Because that is a gnarly event. It's just something you shouldn't have to see. A baby does it. A little kid does it. All right. Yeah. So you reprimand them, whatever punishment. You can't go number 2 there, son. I always say son because I raised 2 kids, and you just don't typically see girls doing that, do you? It's always the boys because they're like, I gotta go. We're just going to go here. These drug dealers or drug addicts, that's who's doing it. On the defecation thing, I did an entire podcast on the Westfield Mall, not far from where this is, that, their incidences of having to clean up human defecation on the elevator have skyrocketed. That's gross. And that's just, ugh, what are you even doing? Yeah. Ugh, right? All right. Yeah. Let's not talk about that anymore, but let's talk about buy a man, eat fish the day, teach man to a lifetime. Those are some words of wisdom right there. I mean, if you can't work that one out, buy the mug just because it's funny. Yeah. We're selling some merch. We've got a bunch of merchandise going on. Check that out. Thanks for being here. Hope you subscribe. We'll catch up on the next one. Bye for now.